Welcome to Harmonious Clan's live parenting coaching on Facebook Live. We do this every Friday at 9:30 Pacific, 12:30 Eastern. Louisa will answer your questions, help you work through your struggles, and provide you with strategies that you can apply now to bring out the gem that is your child from that diamond in the rough.
Hope everybody's doing well this week. My name is Louisa Kasha. I help parents bring out the gem out of their children through working with the outer roughness of behavior or whatever issues that may be that prevents their children being their best. And I'm here to share with you my strategies, answer questions. If you have any questions, please just type it in, and you can also submit it ahead of time through email from our website at harmoniousclan.com. I am an engineer by trade, and I've had an engineering career, but I've always worked with children over the years. I've worked with a lot of children before I had my own. Right now I have 5, almost 6. They all have some sort of a special needs that requires creative intervention, which is where a lot of my strategies come from, either from my own children or from working in the past with other children. And today instead of engineering technical systems, I really like to engineer children's problems. I like to engineer out of the box solutions for out of the box children, especially those that don't rigidly fit into the traditional conforming environment. I'm going to share with you a little message, a little strategy, and then I'm going to jump into the questions that I've received this week, or any questions that you have while you're watching this. Go ahead and send over your questions. I want to talk to you about success paradigm today. Let me see. Okay, want to talk to you about success paradigm today. Looks like there's a misspell. Okay, so a lot of parents are struggling in the state of constantly feeling like they're nagging after their children. It's just the feeling of how it's frustrating to parent at this stage when their children seem to not be doing anything right all day. It's all day long. He's doing this, he's into that, she's whatever it may be. The feeling you get as a parent, and I'm sure many of you have gone through these stages when you just feel like nothing's right. You just feel like, okay, I'm not having fun with my child. I'm not having fun with my child, and I'm constantly going behind them and talking about things that they're not doing right. So I want to share with you today about the success strategies, and that is a new paradigm that the child really needs. When they're constantly feeling like they're not doing the right things, they get into this mode of feeling like I'm not good enough and I'm such a failure. And you know how it is when you feel like you're a failure, when you feel like you're not doing the right things, you're kind of moping around through the day. And then you're continuing to do things with that attitude. Whatever it is that you're doing, whatever your behavior may be, isn't going to be an excellent one. You know, the day you wake up, you're feeling bad about yourself. You're not going to do a whole lot of great things that day. And that's what the kind of mode that a child is in when they're not feeling great about themselves. And people ask me, well, so what do? He's really not doing the right thing. I mean, every moment I'm telling him to take his hands off, to sit down, to listen, to get your homework done, to get your lunch. I mean, every day, every moment, I'm telling him what to do. And how do I change that around? You're going to have to change that around by building the success that it doesn't already exist. In other words, you're going to have to be very, very intentional about building it. But before I go there, I want to back up to this idea of your behaviors come from your thinking. Actually, I should start from the experience. Your experience is what produce your thinking. Okay, and your thinking is then what produce your behavior. So, for example, if you're driving on the Freeway 5, whatever it is, I remember in California, when you're driving on the Freeway 5 and it's always having traffic problem, that's your experience, right? I can never get through this at 5 o'clock on this freeway. So, your thinking is you start to believe that that path that you're taking at 5 o'clock on Freeway 5 just isn't going to work for you. Then you start to change your behavior. You adjust your behavior based on the belief and the thinking that you formulate for yourself. So what do? You start maybe taking 405, the other freeway that goes in parallel, or maybe you start going down Surface Street. You find some other ways. You may be leaving work a little earlier, a little later, whatever it is, you alter your behavior based on what you believe in. And what you're believing in, what you're thinking, is the fact that the Freeway 5 at 5 o'clock is not a good thing, right? And that comes from your experience of multiple times driving there, getting frustrated, and you know that that's not working. So same thing with a child. If a child is on the soccer field and they are experiencing failure, instead of kicking the ball, they're kicking other kids, or they're just not doing what they're supposed to be doing. They're getting called out by the coach, whatever it may be. Their experience is that they're getting correction all day long. So their thinking is going to be, I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough. And I'm always failing. I can never get anything done. I can never do anything great, right? If that's their thinking, they're going to behave as if that is who they are. They're going to behave in a way where they're never going to do anything great, because I believe that I never do anything great anyways, and I'm not good enough anyways. So that's just how I'm going to behave. And that's really what's happening with the children that you find that's just constantly getting into something. And when you get into that frustrating point of parenting, you will know that your child is probably into this sort of spiral. So that is what they have built for themselves. This is the building blocks that got themselves to the top of their behavior of not doing anything right all day. Oh, there's a glare, you can't see it. Anyways, these are just building blocks. What you need to do is you need to tear that down completely. Just to give you an example of how artificially you have to go about creating any tiny little bit of success doesn't exist at all. I'm going to erase that. You need to, in order for you to erase the behavior, you will need to erase the thinking that causes that behavior, and you are going to have to erase the experience that causes that behavior. So first, what you want to do is you want to build a new experience. And again, this is going back to the question of, well, what can he experience that's a success? He doesn't do anything successfully. So this is your job as a parent, as somebody who wants to get them out of that mode. You need to go and create some artificially. For example, if a child has a problem with compliance issues, they will never do what you tell them to do. Okay, well, let's give it this one. So you put a bowl of, I don't know, M&Ms or cookies at the table, and you tell them, okay, here, I really need you to do what I'm telling you to do, right? So I want you to go to the table, have a look at what's inside of the bowl, put one in your mouth, and come back. And so they go to the table. Of course, they're going to the table because they're curious. What is there, right? So then they have a look. Oh, it's an M&M. I mean, which child would say no to that? And so they put one in their mouth, and then they come back, and you're celebrating. Wow, that's great. You did exactly what I said. You're really showing compliance. And I really appreciate you changing your behaviors. I really appreciate that you're doing what I'm saying. I really appreciate that you're being obedient. So this is the moment where you celebrate and you really reflect on their behavior. But let's go back for a second. You're saying, oh yeah, sure, of course. Which child wouldn't say no to an M&M, right? That's exactly the point. You are artificially creating this successful experience for them. So now they have one success built. Here's one tiny little experience built right here. because they've done it. They've done it once, right? Next time, you want to continue to keep building these tiny little experiences that are successful around the theme of obedience or compliance, if that is your issue. If you have an issue somewhere else, you want to create a similar, a similar, I'm not going to say trap, but you want to create a similar artificial situation where they have to succeed. They will succeed because you set it up for them. You set it up for them to succeed. And you continue to do more and more of that. So from that point, you're going to change their behavior. No, not yet. You're going to change their experience to become a positive one. And you continue from the smallest thing that you can find. I mean, it could be just even, you know what? Can you bring me my tea? And it's so simple, right? Little things that you know that they wouldn't mind doing. So then they do it. And again, each time they finish doing something tiny, you're going to want to praise them, make a huge deal out of it if you're really trying to get some transformation from them. So they need to feel like, ooh, wow, I'm transformed. I'm a different person. They may even look at you thinking, you know, you're acting a little strange today. You're saying all these nice things about me today. I mean, they even may look at you differently in that way, but you know, that's okay. You're really trying to erase the experience in the past. You're trying to erase their belief about themselves, and then you're trying to get into the newer behavior, a newer transformed behavior. So after you do that for a few days, or a week or a couple weeks, right? You're gonna start seeing their behavior transform, even without you having to go and try to discipline them or do anything about it, because they're gonna start thinking a little bit more of, yeah, I'm a good person. Yep, you know, my parents are validating what I'm doing. I'm doing the right things, and I'm not always in trouble. You know, you really need to change their perception of themselves, of how much am I in trouble, or how much of the time that I'm doing well, right? You're changing their perception and their thinking of themselves. Their behaviors are going to start transforming little by little, just by the nature of them feeling a little differently about themselves. So I want to challenge all of you today to start making that transformation from the experience for your child, especially if you feel like you're really in a hole with your parenting and you're just constantly having this pull and push and this power struggle with your child. Try doing something a little different today. Okay. Try to set up something that they can just do, and you can kick off that celebrating. And you want to change it to where in 3 days, you're celebrating all day long about what they're doing. Also, if they're not doing the right thing, let's not mention it. Okay, so you want them to be filled with that successful experience and get on board with you about where you want them to be. And your energy is going to be so important every time they do one of these things. You really need to show them that I am so far more excited about what you're doing right than what you're not doing right. They need to know that. So I'm going to jump into some of the questions that I received today. Well, this week. One on disciplining. My parents use a belt with me, but my friends just ground their children or even doing nothing sometimes when their children misbehave. What is the right balance when it comes to disciplining? Great question. What is the right balance? Different people, there's a whole lot of school of thoughts when it comes to disciplining. And I am one that doesn't like to use the word discipline as much as I like to use the word teaching. And what I mean by that is I don't want to catch them after the behavior has already occurred, has already happened, and now you need to give them a consequence. Now you need to figure out how to discipline them. Are you going to use the belt? Are you going to ground them? Are you going to make them lose privilege? That's somewhere we may have to go to sometimes. But before going there, I really like to tackle the issue prior to the happening of the behavior. So, for example, if your child is always throwing rocks, or not always, but for example, if your child has a challenge, they throw rocks or sand, which is just about half the boys, right? In the park sometimes. And instead of waiting until they have thrown it, and now you have to put something on to discipline them, which, okay, now we're getting into this. Okay, I feel bad about myself, right? You want to set them up for success. So prior to going to the park, you're going to want to talk to them about, be frank with them, that certain behaviors are not accepted. I see that sometimes it's hard for you to control yourself. Sometimes you get too excited. Sometimes you forget. You never want to say that there's anything that you never want to attack them as a person. You want to show them what's challenging for them. You don't want to tell them that you're throwing rocks and that's wrong and you're being wrong. It's not so much you, it's this being in the park, being excited is difficult for you. How can we help you? So ahead of time, you want to give them the teaching. It may be figure out, when do you throw rocks? Why do you do that? So for a lot of children, they get bored. For a lot of children, they want to engage with the friends, but they're not sure how to engage. So you really need to go under the waterline of, the behavior of throwing rocks is just the tip of the iceberg. There's a lot going on underneath. I mean, a child could be hungry, but not saying anything. A child could be restless. A child could really want to engage with another friend, but not sure how to. Socially having a little challenge with that bit of a social skills. They could just be a little bored, but they don't know how to redirect themselves into what else can I do right here until it's time to go. They could be overstimulated. There could be so many reasons. You're going to use your keen eyes to kind of observe where you think the challenge and the breakdown points is for them. So let's just say a child, you find out that it's because he's bored. I mean, he's played there for half an hour. It's not time to go home yet. He's not sure what to do next. He has a little trouble redirecting himself. And so then he grabs what he can and starts throwing them, which is pretty typical, right? So, instead of making him feel bad about it, prior to going to the park, you run through scenarios with you. I know this is challenging, and let's figure out some ways so that we won't be throwing rocks. What you tend to do that when it's bored, and I can see that you're finding something to do. What are some other things we can find for you to do? I really love drawing for kids. So I would draw out a chart with maybe 4 or 5 different options, brainstorming together. If I suddenly get bored, can I go see if there's somebody interesting at the park I can talk to? And I may draw a picture about that. Quick sketch. It doesn't really need to be fancy. Depending on the age of your child, it may be drawing or it may be writing of a bullet list, right? Do you think you can go run on the field? Or would you go to the car and get a soccer ball out, right? So you're front loading them with the tools that they need prior to getting to the park, and you are ready, problem solve prior to the problem occurring. So as soon as you get to the park, if you see your child suddenly going to the car and getting a soccer ball, or if you see your child doing anything that you talked about, again, immediately going back to the successful experience, you know what? I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of you. You went, I saw that. I mean, you're going to narrate what they're doing to them so that they know, in clear language, that this is what they're doing. They need to have that personal dialogue going on. So they don't have it. And that's why you're teaching them. Hey, I see that you got a little bored, and I saw that you're walking around. And for so many times when you ended up throwing sand or rocks, this time you didn't. I saw that you used one of the strategies we talked about before we came. I saw that you went to the car, you got a soccer ball, you kept yourself busy. I'm really proud of you. So now you are building success. You're building success. You're building grounds and reasons for you to even celebrate more of your child, instead of resorting to this sort of passive state of, okay, so he's bored, he's gonna go throw sand, and then now I'm gonna have to ground him for the day, right? That's just not very it's not very productive for a child in terms of their learning. So when people talk about discipline, I mean, we'll definitely get there, but prior to getting there, I want to make sure we get everything we can ahead of time to set the child up for success. And I think there are many times when people talk about disciplining, I often see a lack of teaching, a lack of front loading to the child about the expected behaviors and also about the skills of how to get to the expected behaviors. So instead of telling them, yeah, throwing rocks is unexpected, you can't do that, but you need to give them some strategies on what else can I do? You know, you need to front load them so they have the skills that they need to be successful. Next questions. My 8-year-old daughter is making herself miserable. She gets upset with every little thing that happens. She doesn't want to go to parties or do anything because she says that everything that people say makes her upset, even including when people ask her the same questions more than once. I tried being sympathetic, I tried punishment, I tried everything, and nothing works. She absolutely cannot allow herself to have fun, and her behavior is not acceptable. What can I do to change her behaviors? All right, so since we're on the theme of building success strategies and catching the behavior before it occurs, I want to build upon that as a strategy to answer that question. Sounds like, well, we're going to have a little bit of teaching with this child in terms of what is it that makes you upset. And I think the fundamental life skill here that's missing is the concept of people can do or say whatever they want. And I also am a totally free person to respond in any way I want. So the teaching that needs to happen with this piece, it's not going to be disciplining. Okay, so you were rude to your friends because you were upset. Now you're grounded. Now you can't go. It's not going to be those things. I mean, it's going to be let's talk about what's making you upset. So maybe we start making a list of everything that's making you upset because my friend asked me a question that I already answered, or because my friend wants to play this and I don't, or all of the reasons. And you can start making a list. This will validate their feelings also about how they're feeling, what's so upsetting to them. I'm running out of time. I'm going to have to rush through this. But you're going to want to, after you make a list of everything that, typical things that she feels upset about, point out the fact that, oh, did you notice? These are all things that other people are doing. And, give that realization of, yeah. And do you think you ought to get so upset based on what other people are doing? Or do you have the freedom? That this is a moment of pause where the child may be coming to an aha moment of, yeah, am I really connected to what other people are doing to me? So, again, I like drawing. I love making charts for children. And there is one strategy, one tool you can use, and I use it with my own children. So I have a chart like this. I don't know if you can see well through the glare. I have a chart that has a small column. Oh yeah, you can see this. Okay, that has a small column here on the left and a big column on the right. On the left is what is out of my control. Okay, and then on the right is what is in my control. I'm going to answer this question with an example. So say my child gets upset because his paper airplane got messed up, right? So we're really going to acknowledge the fact that what is out of my control. I mean, he really needs to be able to see that the fact that my paper airplane got smashed is out of my control. But now the box is bigger in what's in my control. So you're going to talk about, okay, there's nothing I can change about that. It's smashed, and it sure is. And I mean, look at it. It really is. It's out of your control. There's nothing I can do about it. But we really want to shift the focus to what's in my control. So in other words, everything that happens, everything that other people say or do to us are out of our control. But what is in my control? So then I start brainstorming with my child. Okay, so sure, you can make a new one. I put a checkbox and I write down that option again, write or draw, depending on how old your child is. And I put another box. Well, what else is in your control? Maybe I can buy a new one. Maybe I can ask somebody to make a new one. So now you're going through a few minutes of brainstorming on what's in my control. What you're strategically doing is you're shifting the focus from what's out of my control to then what are my options. I think a lot of times, even with us adults, we get stuck into this, oh no, my job isn't working out. My boss, this, that, anything, it's not working out. And you really want to teach them the life skills from a very young age to get into the mindset of the environment cannot change. What happened to me in life cannot change. Life gives me lemon and I'm gonna do what to make lemonade, right? So you're gonna teach your child. These are really precious coaching moments. So for example, the little girl that's getting upset over what people are saying, I mean, let's go through this exercise and say, okay, people said that, but what can I do? What's in my control? I can be mad or be okay. I can walk away. I can smile anyways. I can go find some other friends. I mean, open up this door. And this isn't going to happen one time, but you're going to take a lot of these moments, these parenting moments that you need to be teaching them life skills. And you're going to run through a lot of examples through their everyday life. Every time something happens or you see something that's going to happen, you can pull out this chart about what's in my control and what's not, right? And then we're constantly trying to teach them that to get them to a point where life may happen. People may say or do, but I'm okay here. And these are the things that I know I can do. I use one of these strategies for impulse control for a couple of my own kids, for them to really not respond and not react so fast on things that they're unhappy about. We need to show them and teach them how to insert that layer of rationale thinking. That's what's missing when kids suddenly get upset and they get out of control. But this is going to take, we're talking 6 months, a year, or a few months of coaching. You may see them having a little bit of growth and you keep going. We're out of time today. If you have any other questions, just send me an email. I will be doing this every single Friday. I'll share with you my strategies. Again, my name is Louisa Kasha. Send me email, or go to the website to log your questions, and I'll try to address them every Friday.